How's it, everybody? Welcome back to the Rocky Fern. My name is Luke, and I have OI Type 4. And in today's episode of Show Me the Green, we're checking out a freaking dream wish list Hoya. It's actually the smallest Hoya. It's Hoya Microphylla. Let's get into it. How freaking cool is this? This is definitely a wish list Hoya. They command a really high price. And being so small and needing highland conditions, I didn't want to record my little teeny tiny plant out here in ambient conditions and stress it out. So I did some macro shots, which we'll take a look at here. Let's put back into the highland setup just so that I wouldn't have to stress it out. But we're going to take a trip here and kind of follow it back to its beginning. So Hoya Microphylla. Micro meaning tiny and phylla meaning leaf, so it is a tiny leafed Hoya. In fact, it's the smallest leafed Hoya. It does have some really remarkable blossoms, but what's even a little crazier to me is that there's not a lot of information about this. So far, what I've gathered, there's multiple species of Microphylla, could be subspecies. There's not all of them are in circulation, and I'm not sure exactly which clone or which varietal I have, but it is a beautiful Microphylla nonetheless. But if you see here, we're going to take a jump here from where I'm living right now, which is Kaua'i, Hawaii. We're going to go all the way west to Papua New Guinea, which shares its border with Indonesia, which we all know is a super big hotspot for Hoya, and it's found in the Bismarck mountain range. And from what I can tell, the elevations aren't too dramatic. It's found out at about 1,100 feet of 1,100 meters of elevation. That's about 3,600 feet. So it's not ultra highland by any means, but it's definitely cooler. Here in Kauai, we actually have a elevation of around 6,400 max, I believe, and so we're right in between sea level and the max height here. And so I can imagine that nighttime temps are about 50 degrees throughout the year, and then max highs could be upwards of 80 on really hot days, but probably more like 70, 75, and then lots of humidity. So I could see that this plant growing really well here if I were living up a little bit higher Mauka. But what I will say though is the way this plant grows, I could definitely see that it needs cool roots, a lot of moisture, so maybe it's actually not being kept so much so as an epiphytic, or it's not growing so much as an epiphytic, but more so as a ground cover and somewhat epiphytically. I haven't noticed too many aerial roots on this particular plant of mine, but I do know that the new growth is a copper reddish color like a lot of Hoya are, and I'll show you some highlights right here. This is like a 7 or 8 stack photo I took of the new growth. Really pretty. Very tomentose versus the more mature leaf where it becomes more smooth. And I have a picture right here of my finger for comparison. They're just so tiny. I can't even tell you just how tiny they are. I am keeping it in a self-watering pot with some fluval stratum and a little bit of slow-release fertilizer. And you can see that I put some moss there in the top to help retain moisture. And that moss is taken off really quickly. You can see that it's overgrown the top of the pot really well. And so far, it's a semi-quick growing Hoya. I did get it as a very small cutting. It might have been a 2 or 3 node, something like a 4 or 6 leaf cutting. Very expensive, something that I was very hesitant to pull the trigger on. But the seller who I met on Facebook was incredible. He did a really good job packing it and reassured me that he had plenty of references and was there talking me through my indecisiveness or my hesitation. And I'm really glad I did it. So far, it's doing really well in the Highland growth tank with the Nepenthes Hamada and whatnot. You can see here on this stack of photos, this macro shot, that the stem remains very fuzzy. Now, I'd like to see this plant get more mature and throw off a lot more growth and see what stays fuzzy and whatnot. But you can see here that it's very fuzzy along the stem. And we're looking at a more mature leaf here where you can see that the leaf is smooth now, and maybe the outer margin or the edge of the plant is still somewhat hairy. But it develops this really nice deep green color. It's a beautiful Hoya. So from what I can tell, these guys develop very typical Hoya blossoms. They get the 5-petal layout, the 5-petal corolla with a 5-petal corona. It might be sepal corona, but the corolla is stark white and the corona is a very burgundy, rich, solid color Makes for a very nice contrast. Kind of looks like a little Bella lanceolata, or just like the plant I just showcased, the Hoya numerarioides. Has that similar flower structure and flower color palette. It's a beautiful, beautiful flower. I think I'm maybe a year away from actually seeing a lot, blossoms and peduncles, but we'll see. Now, you can see here I have some close-ups. This might be a 3-photo stack of new growth. So everything is fuzzy on the new growth. The leaves themselves start to turn this silvery color, and then they'll develop that rich pink color, the bronzy color, that will fade into a nice deep green color. I'm very excited to do a quick update on this plant here, hopefully in the next 3 to 6 months. I'm hoping I actually have a big mother plant by then, and I will be looking at maybe doing some cuttings. We'll see down the line. But if you're interested in some cuttings, let me know for sure. I can get a list going. If you like this new setup with the new macro shots and whatnot, and trying to get you into these very small plants, small details of the plant, definitely give a thumbs up. It helps out a ton. Subscribe, because I'd love to add to the channel. I'd love to have you on. And we'll see you guys on the next adventure.